So let's go now to the real deal. I'm going to grab my 2 reference photos. And remember that this is going to be a composite of the 2 references we have. So we're going to use this as our subject, the flowers, buds, stem, and the leaf. And then we will take this part of the leaf to see the details much more clearly. So I'm going to set this aside. As you can see, I've bounded it in a box, a rectangular box, and it's roughly a minimized A5, maybe a 4x6. That's an estimate. So what we're doing here right now is freehand drawing. So what we can do is to either break it down into geometric shapes or look at the positive and the negative spaces. So what do you mean by positive space? So the positive space is your subject, while your negative space is the background. Okay? You can also start by dividing it into 4 equal parts. So let's try this technique, okay? So let's draw a vertical line here. I hope you're seeing this clearly. It's slipping, sorry. And then we draw a horizontal line. Is it in the middle? No, it's not. Okay, again. I'm going to turn it over so I can see if it's half. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so you can see on this left side is the part of a leaf on this corner, and then this part of the leaf on the right. And then take note of the bean-like shape of the leaf, and then this part on the lower left box. So you can see that in this line the buds are over here, and then we're going to take note of the stem here, and then do the flower over there, and it crosses this line over here. So this is pretty much like the grid method, only that it's freehand and not measured. If you want to go OC on this, you can measure this and then transfer it here. But freehand is much more faster. So as you can see, I also broke it down into shapes. So this is the bean part, a little curved rectangle, a somewhat like parallelogram here. I see an almost horizontal line here, then curved, a bit of a triangle, folded leaf. I hope you're seeing this. Yep. Okay, and then we draw the buds over here. You can see that I'm doing this in a very light pressured manner. I'm not applying heavy pressure on the paper because I want it to be erased easier later on. So we're going to add the stems. Not sure if some lines over here, curved, some extension to the stem, and then another bud peeking out here, another bud underneath here. Okay. So the line over here, diagonal line, there's a stem, and then let's imagine that there's probably the stem goes over here. Yep, it goes over here underneath this. It's almost the same, right? Yes. Let me make an adjustment. Over here. Okay. So we take note of the lines. These are kind of prominent. Huh? So it all boils down to this dot here. They all meet there, all the lines. Let's check too. So if you can remember a while ago, on the blind contour drawing, I saw these as little pitchforks. So it's under here. I'm just going to erase that bit so I won't get confused later on. Okay, and there's another one here. A slightly light line here. And then an almost horizontal line slanting here. Another one here. And another one here. So when you get all your lines there already, oh wait, I forgot the little pitchforks again. Let me see here. Slightly bending over there. And then over here. Notice that the pitchforks don't touch each other. Okay, so once you've done the overall outline, it's time to erase the guidelines we have. So we won't get confused later. I hope this is visible for you. And I hope that this is quick enough for our time limit today. Okay, our aim is to color with much more cleaner outlines, and we don't want these outlines to appear later when we're coloring already. Okay, I'm just going to brush this off, get rid of the rubber eraser bits. Okay. Next is, since there are repeated lines over here, I'm going to clean it more. As I don't want them to appear later on the finished product. Okay, I'm just going to brush this off. Get rid of the eraser bits. And then I'm going to go over it lightly with my other eraser so I can still see what I have drawn underneath. So it's okay. The faint marks are good. So first off, we're going to use the yellow-green. I'm going to outline my drawing first. Make a clean line so I can remember my drawing. I'm going to trace it over now. So why am I starting with the yellow-green again? With colored pencils, you have to use the lighter colors first. We go from the lightest to the darkest. Okay. You can see that the base of the leaf is yellow-green. And then we see some spots of olive green. And then we see a much darker part here. let's refer to the actual photo so that we won't be confused later on. So here is the actual photo. The good thing about keeping the digital copy is that you can zoom in on the details and see the texture of the leaf. So let's observe here. I see dark brown, dark greens over here. I see some highlights of white, but we can do that with yellow-green. And then there are some, surprise, there are hairs. There are also hairs on the stem. Okay, let's check the flower. So it has a light pink hue with the yellow stamen. So you can see here it's curved lines. You can see some bits of brown here on the shadows, a bit of yellow-green mixed with pink and brown, a bit of red and brown would cover this and the stem. Okay, so let's proceed to coloring. So I'm going to go over a light shade. Wait, I'm going to clean my drawing more so that it won't appear on my final output later. I'm going to brush it off. Okay. Going to lightly cover it. I'm gonna make this more prominent so I can see it later when it's covered with yellow-green. So take note of the lines. I just go to the direction so the strokes are more like fanning out. So I like to keep my colored pencil tips blunt too, so that I can shade it much more faster and it can cover a lot in one stroke. So just lightly color over the leaf, a little bit of pressure, just not too heavy on the surface, okay? Still want to see the outlines I made underneath of the pitchforks. So notice that the outer edges are lighter too compared in the middle. So take note of that. These details make a lot of difference when you're a keen observer. There you go, almost done. Okay. So let's look at the cheat sheet. So this is done. And then we go over with the green. I hope you can still see what I'm doing. Okay, it's good. So there are some parts that are olive green. You have to leave out some parts that are yellow green. So not all will be shaded with this color. Just a hint of it and that would do. Later on, we'll be covering this again with a dark brown. Okay. Almost there. Are you still following along? Just coloring. Coloring in the leaf. So just light application, okay? Sometimes I vary my stroke so that the lines won't be as noticeable later on. So it kind of blurs out the initial lines I made or the colors I made. Like blends it in. Okay. So far looking good. And then we go with brown. So we're going to go with brown and violet. So take note, where are the dark parts? So I see one over here. So it doesn't have to be perfect since it's irregular in shape, in markings. It's just random. So let's just have fun with it. Color in. It's like a little lightning bolt over there. And then a little bowl. And then a tiny triangle. And then a smoke over here. So once you've gone dark or put pressure on the color, heavier pressure I mean, it's harder to erase it, okay? So there's no going back. So it's easier to just layer it little by little than going heavy at one time and then make a mistake. Some random spots here, over here, over here, over here. Some random blob over here and there. I think this is the fun part. The leaves, the random blobs. Just make it more curvier, more random. The lines should not be so straight, so it's like scribbling. And then fill it up with color brown. Filling it up, filling it up. You see? So there should be no lines visible since these are whole. The lines that I see are only from these areas. So more blobs over here. These look like smoke, more or less. A lighter blob over here. Okay, how's it looking? Okay, so I'll skip this part since these are the buds over there. I don't want to go over them. Okay, so I'm going to make a light outline here so I'll remember that this is where the stem goes. I might forget later. Okay, coloring in more solid blobs over here. So the outline is more of a scribble than a straight line. It's like little maps, little countries. little triangles. And then here you see a little rectangle. Just coloring in. No straight lines. Outlines should look like a map. So I'm leaving a space for the stem of the flower. Are you still following along? We're doing the leaf first because this is the biggest part of the whole plant. Then I'm noticing something. The edge over here should be more pointy. Going to lightly cover it with yellow green again. Okay. We do a bit here. Notice that the outlines have those bits or outlines of olive green too. So we're going to put in those as well. I missed this part. Okay, so we're going to go on the pointed tip of the pencil and lightly outline the leaf. So the line varies on thickness. So it's not a solid line all the way through. In some parts it only shows a hint of the brown. Sometimes it comes in contact with the blob. It's much more triangular in shape. But hey, we're having fun here, right? Gonna erase kasi I went over the line. Coloring right like crazy. Okay, let's go over the outline again. And then we mark these parts with So the thickness varies also when it comes to these lines. Some lines are just hints of a line. Okay. We go over with another layer of yellow-green again to make it more blended in with how it's looking. Bit of green, lightly pressure. Light application. Make sure that you're coloring using the blunt edges. The blunt tip, I mean. And now we lightly go over with brown for the overall leaf. So this is how you achieve the slightly olive green shade with the limited palette that we have. So not all parts are olive green, just some bits of it, but the majority of it is olive green. So make sure to leave these areas beside the lines because these are light parts. I'm going to shade using the blunt tip of my colored pencil. So more or less it's looking almost the same, not quite yet. This is challenging, huh? So remember to leave the outermost part light. Just shading here constantly. Mixing my browns and greens by coloring over. Coloring is fun! This is so satisfying. I hope you're enjoying this while this session lasts. Because I am enjoying myself now. You can also see here that this part is dark and there's a yellow emanating from this side. Okay, let's color over again. Coloring in faster, faster. Okay, so I'm going to color the darker parts with a lighter application of violet. I don't really like using black on my art, so I tend to combine colors instead. Plus it's challenging more. In terms of how to color it darker, finding the right colors or hues. But a bit of violet makes these blobs darker. Let's try a bit of red if it works. It does work. Slight color, light pressure. Okay. Looking good, I hope. Okay, so let's color in the stem. So it's a bit of red and brown. So lightly go over it. Not too thick because these are just small stems. There you go. You can see how it disappeared here when I went over a dark color. That's what we're trying to avoid. Then we go over here. So we don't have pink, so we're only coloring lightly with red, right? Then a bit of brown. So this part is covered by the leaf, so expect that there's a shadow here. So it's darker on the top part and gradually lightening towards the bottom. You can also see that the stem here is almost invisible. Let's check our other reference. Yep, it's reddish brown. So this is a separate stem, so it should be distinguishable from the other stem. Okay. Now we head on to the flowers. Okay. We go over the buds. So I'm going to clean it a bit. Okay, maybe let's go for the red first. So let's take note that we're going to leave the lightest parts out. So we're not going to touch or color those, okay? Those parts. So you can see here, there is a bump on the middle of a somewhat like an inverted triangle. So I'm going to do a light outline of what I observe from here. There's a petal also underneath there. I'm not sure if that's a petal or another bud, but at least we included it. Okay. Another one in side view or 3/4 view. Okay, so let's make a smile out of this and lightly color over. So what I'm shading right now is the shadow or the dark parts. So light pressure, okay? Because we do not have a pink. Light pressure is to be used. And then I see a shadow over here. So towards the middle, you can notice that there are bumps. That's why the shadow is like that. You can also see that there's a hint of a pink outline over there. Pink outlines over the edges. Another bump towards the middle. Lightly color it with red on parts that aren't white. Okay, so we do the stems. These mostly originate on the middle of the bump. So there. To erase a bit. You can see the outline of my pencil still showing. And to get rid of the eraser bits. Okay, let's go over with a touch of brown for the shadows. You can see there's a little bit of a heart-shaped shadow over here. Much darker shadow over here, so it's okay to go dark over there. Heavy pressure, no worries. Go over it with the red again. Make sure that this is distinguishable from the bud in the front. Light shade over here, and then a bit of shadow over here. You can see that there's a tinge of brown on the stems too. bit of yellow-green. Over the flower. Just hints. Then over here. Are you guys still following along? And over here.